So we're here doing an interview for FIGHTZUMI. Our next show is on the 15th of June, and we have a living legend with us here today. What is your name and where are you from?
My name's Peter Irving. I'm from the Toon. That's what we'll call Newcastle upon Tyne.
Just what is your story, Peter, and why are you coming back to do all of this?
I retired about 10 years ago, at the end of 2013, and life moved on, and the sport moved on, and didn't take me with it. And it was time to call it a day for a number of reasons. I hung the gloves up, but it took us a long time to come to terms with it. And finally I have, and now I feel like I can do it again. So, yeah, my story. Newcastle is quite. It's a place where being handy with your fists has a lot of cachet. You know, especially when you're a young man, when you're a young lad, when you're at school, you're like, it's all about who's the handiest with the hands, and it's, I don't know, it's a cultural thing, you know. And I felt like, and I never felt like I was a fighter. I think I should have been a poet or a painter or a musician, and I just ended up, you had to be, you needed to be, and the less inclined you were, the more you needed to learn the skill of it. And so it was the craft of it that I fell in love with. Also, I got a little bit of history. My grandfather was the bantamweight champion of the Durham Light Infantry. The Durham Light Infantry were one of the regiments that took part in D-Day, and so he was in the second wave of D-Day, you know, and he survived the war. So, but he was the boxing champion of the Durham Light Infantry because he was a dancer. He was a ballroom dancer, and he had graceful feet, you know, so he could move like Sugar Ray, you know, and then. When the war ended, yeah, you know, he didn't keep boxing. He didn't want to be a pro or anything like that, you know. But he loved Saturday shows, wrestling. So I grew up with these stories of my granddad who passed away, and so I wanted to emulate my grandfather a little bit. That was one of the reasons.
So how many fights have you had?
I'm not 100% sure, because I had fights over a lot of different disciplines. You know, so initially I was interested in mixed martial arts. It was a sort of mysterious new sport at the time when I got into it. So I was fascinated by that. So I had a number of fights. It wasn't clear what the rules were, whether they were professional fights or sort of semi-professional or whatever. So I'm not 100% sure what my actual record is. And then I had a number of fights in Muay Thai and kickboxing. But I only ever boxed in unlicensed events, and I didn't have the right style to be an amateur boxer, and because I was pursuing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Judo, wrestling, all these different disciplines, I didn't feel I had time to make the commitment to go down the path for professional boxing, and I've always regretted it, and I always felt like I could have. I would like to know what I could have accomplished, you know, because you know. I wasn't the greatest ever mixed martial artist. I wasn't the greatest ever Thai boxer, but I accomplished the most that I believe that I possibly could with the talent that God gave me, and that's what I was thinking. If I come back, if I do another MMA fight, it's not even going to be close to the best thing that I did. If I do another jiu-jitsu fight, the last time I fought jiu-jitsu was in the Tijuca Tennis Club where Roger Gracie was fighting. Nothing I can do can ever top what I've done before. But there is a chance that if I play my cards right, I could do the best boxing match that I've ever done.
That's a really good point. I think a lot of people in obviously the MMA scene see you as like a pioneer in the British MMA scene. How do you feel about that?
People do very kindly call me a pioneer. I think that is a polite way of saying that it's okay that you weren't very good because nobody knew what they were doing back then. That is what I mean when I say someone's a player. Yeah. Now there's exceptions, like Ian Freeman was amazing. You know, he was, you know, Michael Bisping, he went on to reach the heights and stuff like that. But a lot of us were just ordinary guys who were just trying our best to figure out a new sport and collate all this information, you know, travel around the world. And now it's really easily accessible, you know, and there's experienced coaches that have been through it. You know, but at the time it was all brand new, and that was part of the thrill of it, was figuring out how all the pieces of this puzzle fit together.
So would you say when you started MMA, was boxing a huge part of it? Because obviously with all the mixed disciplines, you've also got like jiu-jitsu that got bigger into it, and now you've got the champions that are into wrestling, sambo. Do you feel like boxing was a main part of MMA when it started?
Interestingly, the sport of MMA, all of the tools of Muay Thai are available to the MMA fighter. but the science and craft needs to come from boxing. You cannot fight MMA, even though you're allowed a knee, you're allowed an elbow, you can't fight MMA in the same form as you would in a Muay Thai fight, because it doesn't combine with wrestling. So the art of boxing, the art of ring craft, that's the essential element for an MMA fighter. So an MMA fighter who neglects to box, is not going to be able to navigate the environment that they're in properly. So even though you use an octagon shape in MMA and not a square boxing ring, the footwork and the understanding of the space, that has to come from boxing. Or if you neglect that, you'd be a fool, because
it's like the base of everything, basically.
That to me, the understanding of distancing. There's other schools people crib this from, karate and different arts. But for me, like ring craft is best understood, by boxers. And if you can't observe, because one of the problems is that a lot of the sophisticated problems that boxing poses to a fighter, is solved by the low kick. The easiest, most simple Muay Thai technique that you can get, if they move this way, if they move like that, if they put the foot here, I'll just kick them in the leg. And then it's such a simple solution and it's such a simple technique that you can teach anybody to do, that it causes then people from previous generations haven't misunderstood the importance of boxing in MMA, and now the next generation of fighters came along with this understanding of the craft, the craft of how to move the feet, not just how to throw the punches.
True. So would you say that in some ways you have unfinished business in boxing?
Yeah, I was never satisfied. I was never satisfied with what I accomplished as a boxer. I feel like I could have been better, and I should have taken a little bit of time off of those other sports and invested in the boxing, and I never did for whatever reason, and that's one of my regrets.
So in some ways winning this would mean a lot to you. It's a WBU belt, it's a Legends Elite Masters. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, it is important, but belts and trophies and things like that, they feel great at the time, and then they meant nothing to us after a while. Right?
It's like a buzz that you get.
Yeah. And what it was? The things that I value was the memories of the people I was around. When I look at old photographs, I say, "Oh, he was there. He was in my corner." That's and the belt can represent that. When you look at a physical item, you can see like, "Oh, I remember the time that person was right next to me. They tied it around my waist." But the really important thing is the people that you're with when you do these things.
It's a perfect response. I think the last thing I would like to ask you is, you've seen your opponent, I guess. Yeah. What do you think of Dominic Felix? I know he's an ex-professional boxer. You never got to the stage of professional boxing, whereas he has been there. Do you think that's going to pose more of a threat to you? Do you feel like boxing is boxing and the levels are not always?
I think I was hoping that I was going to get somebody who was short and fat and would make me look really good. And then I ended up getting someone who's tall, southpaw, a former professional boxer. I think there's going to be a lot of problem solving to do with Dominic. That's the thing. As a boxer, he poses a lot of puzzles. Like negotiating the distance, the way that he stands. He's tricky. He's flighty, and he knows how to keep himself safe. He knows how to steal rounds with little eye-catching flurries. He knows the game. I think there's going to be some problem solving to do. And the sooner I can figure him out, the better. So one of the reasons why I decided I wanted to box again, I had a young man come over and live with me from Brazil. I trained in Brazil, and when I was there, back when I was a champion, Enrique was this little boy, just a tiny little kid. I was his dad's friend. And when I went back to visit, and Enrique was a grown man. He was standing a foot taller than me, and by this time he was amazing. His jiu-jitsu was amazing. He wanted to be a fighter. He wanted to be a professional fighter. And so his dad trusted me to look after him. He came over, lived in my house, lived with my family. Wow. And basically my coach, Dr. Stoneham, my boxing coach, Dr. Richard Stoneham, he taught Enrique how to box. But I taught Enrique how to be a professional athlete, how to discipline himself, how to eat the right things, how to go to bed at the right times. and he was undefeated. And then he went on to become a professional. He moved to anybody who knows the sport of MMA. He was a sparring partner for Damian Maia, Shogun. You know, he was he was that good. He had the world at his feet. And then one day I came out of the gym, and there was a rake of phone calls from Brazil. So I phoned him back, and that was it. And Iga was gone, and just like that, he was gone. And nobody knew there was anything wrong with him. Just he seemed okay, and then that was it. And sorry.
Some ways it's like you owe him something to come back one more time and do that fight.
I didn't take it very well when he died, and I stopped trying. I sort of gave up a little bit. I didn't want to train anymore. I was making excuses, and I looked in the mirror. I thought, it's been a year, you know, and he wouldn't have put up with it. I gave him a lot of stick for being ill-disciplined, and he wouldn't stand for anything. If I wasn't holding to the same standard, he would accuse me. And I thought, you know what, I wouldn't be making him proud, you know. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to just do this one, and then I'll let him go properly, you know. So what I'm going to do is any commissions off of the tickets, if anybody is supporting me, I'm going to give those give the ticket commission to the charity Mind. And so if anybody's not got a fight to support, they're just coming for the crack, you know, having a good night out, you know, and you want to go there and buy a ticket, maybe you could be my supporter for the night, and that would be doing something nice, you know. And the link's in the bio.
Thank you so much, Pete. Thank you.